to me.
3, 2, 1.
Let's get 'em.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Taylor Knox, and this is Dating in the Digital Age, a podcast about the trials and tribulations of dating in the current digital age we live in, where a young adult with no background in psychology or hopes for success in the current social norms attempts to decrypt the mysteries to why it's so hard to find commitment and companionship. So sit back and enjoy, and let's see if we can unravel this mystery together. Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of Dating in the Digital Age. This episode is entitled The Things They Left Behind. I picked this name because I was inspired by a book I read a long time ago called The Things They Carried. The book was about Vietnam soldiers who were depicted by fellow soldiers who survived the Vietnam War by the items they carried in their pockets, trinkets and pictures, etc. This episode I want to talk about the things our exes leave behind. The most obvious answer is us. But what else is left? Emotionally, what are we left with? Physically, what are we left with? Even materialistically, what do we have of theirs that's just too difficult to let go of? And why do we hold on to it? Does it hurt or help to let go? And what should we forget and what should we never forget? Let's dive in. Let's take stock of how many Christmas gifts, birthday presents, and random items of affection we all have that were bought for us by our no longer significant others. I'll be honest, I've saved some people a lot of money. I always seem to be single by Christmas, and I can count on one hand how many girls I've had with me for my birthdays. I usually ask for an experience, not something that can be bought at a store, but something to remember. I will say I do have one crutch: cards. I have so many cards from family, friends, and yes, girls of Christmas past. I don't break them out on a regular basis, but I recently moved and was packing all of my crap and came across a giant Ziploc bag of cards. X after X after X, signed with hearts and notes telling me how wonderful I was or how happy they are. It makes you pause for a second and think, what the hell happened? These are moments forever trapped in history of someone's thoughts and at present at what time they really cared. Maybe that's why I keep them. To know there was a time when I was doing something right. And that's not to say that I or the other ended up doing something wrong. It just didn't work out in the end. Is it okay to keep that hoodie that they gave you, that you've washed over 6,000 times and now just fits like it's a part of you? Are you really allowed to move on? It's a trick question. I think it really depends on how much emphasis you put on the item. I keep the hoodie around because it's a damn good hoodie, and sometimes I get cold. But I think if I put the hoodie on and thought of her and wondered what she was doing, or if I slept next to it, well, that would be a very negative hoodie. Hoodies, t-shirts, ticket stubs, random household items that she bought you because she thought they would look nice in your new place. What about things you bought with him or her on a trip shared together? As previously stated, it's not about the item itself, but the emphasis we put on the item. I found myself recently in a very interesting scenario. An ex of mine had a hoodie that I had lended her as she was departing because I wanted to make sure she was warm. She recently had broken up with me and had said that she was going to send the hoodie back because she didn't live in the same state. I told her that she could keep it or toss it or do as she pleased because it was a gift to her. I think she ended up sending it back because she thought her items would be returned around post-haste. I have to be honest, going to UPS and paying to send back someone's stuff who so quickly and suddenly departed doesn't exactly rank the highest on my priority list. I imagined I would get around to it when the time presented itself. I realized that's not the admirable thing to do, but I used to hop to whatever she wanted when we were dating, trying hard to please, and that I think was a large reason why the relationship failed. And now that I'm not the same after the breakup, You would think all hell is broken loose and I'm some demon who has one of her items hostage. This is where we get into the emotional part of what is left behind. What we say at the end of a relationship to hurt someone or bring forth all the negativity to finalize the ultimate end. This recent ex previously mentioned left a note with some ex instructions, some small insight into how she viewed me in the end. The note goes as follows. Be good. Stop white knighting. It's annoying as fuck. Be humble. Your vulnerabilities are far more attractive than your overly confident humor. It felt so odd. Not you. You're smart. Don't let yourself believe you're perfect. Being able to admit you're wrong or weak is okay. Humility is a beautiful thing. Take care. How much of this is true? I'd say 99%. The 1% I'm arguing with is her interpretation of certain aspects of my character. I think they were emotional points of disagreement. I took that note and I stuck it on my fridge for a week. I would look at it and think of what conversation did we have that made her think this was the way I was, or what did I do to make her say this point? This is where we get into helping the listener. Take stock of everything left behind from a relationship. Analyze it. Then throw it away. I think it's a hard life goal to get to when you can say, okay, what am I doing wrong? And why is the outcome always the same? My mom is always going to say, it's not you, it's them. Good old mom might be right some of the time, but sometimes it might have been us. And we need to look into what was left to get to the point where it's not going to be left behind anymore. Things that are left behind also often cause a lot of issues when you start dating someone new. Whether these things are materialistic or emotional, if the new person in your apartment or your house finds something and wants to know where it came from, and you have to admit that it was a gift from an ex, the likelihood of this new significant other being okay with this is slim to none. And if they are, then they're a very understanding and caring person who has been there before. And if they're not, well, then it's going to be a very rocky start to a relationship that will constantly be in question of what is this and who does this belong to, and is this one of your ex's things, or why are you saying this, was that something that your ex did? And ultimately what that comes down to is just a lack of trust and communication and understanding. And then you have to ask yourself the question, is it you or is it them? This is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode. I'm usually going to try to make these between 10 to 15 minutes just to gather our thoughts, put them down on paper, and not drag on and on and on about a miserable dating history and how we're trying to make everything better. However, I think just to recap on some of the points for today are to understand that keeping things around that you want because you want them is completely okay, whether they come from an ex or not. However, we need to analyze the reasons why we're keeping them around. If it's because we want to remember our ex because we're emotionally caught up in the relationship that was in the past and is no more, and that's probably something that we should attempt to let go of, because I don't think that we can further progress into any emotional relationship of true sincerity if we're still held up in a relationship that no longer is. Another point, which I don't think I really made clear in the previous part of this podcast, is letting go is not necessarily the same as admitting defeat. When you let go of something, it can be a very freeing experience, and you, in the process, become a stronger person because of it. And it's not always the easiest thing. And I think that's why we hold on to a lot of the things we hold on to, because it's easier just to be miserable sometimes and say, well, it didn't work out, but this makes me comfortable because this is what I know. But in the end, when you look back, you say, wow, why didn't I just throw this away years ago? Or why do I still even have this? What does this say about me as a person? Or how is anyone else going to truly understand why I'm keeping this? And to be honest, if you can't even explain it yourself, it's going to be really difficult to explain it to anyone else, no matter how much you care about them. For any of those interested, the note that my ex wrote me no longer is on my fridge. I examined it, I analyzed it, I broke it down. I think I took some good things from it, and I have since thrown it away. I am a theater major, so I do have an excellent memory of what exactly was on it, which is why I could recite it. However, I don't let it emotionally affect me, and I think that she was right on a lot of points, and I hope that the next person who comes along will reap the benefits of some very, very insightful words. Part of me wishes that I could write her something back in response. However, I think that that wouldn't be the best option because we wouldn't be able to let go. And the whole point of this podcast is to understand exactly where to draw the line and where to move on. So I hope that you have enjoyed listening to episode 2 of Dating in the Digital Age and that you'll join me again soon. And best of luck out there, dating in the digital age.